Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Frost. Snow fell silently over the Connecticut mansion as Victor Mercer watched his twin children build a snowman through the kitchen window. At 42, Victor had built his security empire from nothing, transforming his special forces training into a lucrative civilian career. Standing 6'3" with ice blue eyes that rarely softened, even for his 6-year-old twins Leo and Lily, Victor commanded respect in every room. "Daddy, come help us." Lily's high-pitched voice called through the partially open window. Victor gave a rare smile and nodded. "Mr. Mercer," his assistant Nora interrupted, "Governor Talon is on the line about the security contract." Victor's expression hardened. "Tell him I'll call back in an hour. My children are waiting." The family's 12-bedroom estate, nestled on 20 acres of woodland just outside Hartford, represented everything Victor had sacrificed for: security, legacy, prosperity. His wife Diana, a former model turned charity organizer, had been part of that perfect picture for 8 years. Later that evening, as the household staff prepared for the annual Mercer Christmas Gala, Victor walked into Diana's studio, where she was supposedly working on her charity foundation's financials. "The Andersons and Wellmans confirmed for tomorrow," Victor said, leaning against the doorframe. "Governor Talon is bringing his new wife." Diana minimized something on her laptop screen too quickly. "That's lovely. I've seated them at table 3. Victor noticed the flush on her cheeks, the slightly disheveled hair. "Everything all right? You seem distracted lately. Just busy with the foundation. The children's hospital wing needs another $2 million by January." Diana turned away, tucking her auburn hair behind her ear, a tell Victor had noted since their first date. "Of course," Victor said, his mind cataloging another suspicious behavior. "The security team will be here at 6 tomorrow to prepare for the gala. I've doubled them since the threats against the governor." As he left the room, Victor pressed a small button on his watch, activating the surveillance system he'd installed throughout the house 3 months ago when Diana's behavior first changed. Most men would confront their wives with suspicions. Victor wasn't most men. In his private office, Victor unlocked a hidden panel revealing multiple screens displaying every room in the house. Diana was now on her phone, speaking urgently in hushed tones. Victor turned up the volume. "He knows something?" "No, I didn't tell him anything." "Yes, I'm sure." "No, not Christmas Eve, it's too risky." "Russell, please." Victor's face remained impassive as he recorded the conversation. He'd survived 3 tours in Afghanistan and built a security empire by controlling his emotions. This betrayal would be handled with the same calculated precision as everything else in his life. The name Russell triggered a memory. Russell Holt, a charismatic venture capitalist who had appeared at their charity gala last summer. The man who had donated $500,000 to Diana's foundation. The man who had been in their home multiple times for foundation meetings. Victor opened a secure laptop and accessed a database few civilians knew existed. His military contacts still proved useful. Russell Holt wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He had connections to offshore banking operations suspected of laundering money for various criminal enterprises. Nothing had ever stuck, but Victor now had leverage should he need it. Victor closed the panel as his twins burst into the office. "Daddy, Ms. Winnie made hot chocolate," Leo announced, his face alight with excitement. Victor lifted both children onto his lap. "Did she put extra marshmallows like you like?" As the children nodded enthusiastically, Victor felt a cold determination settle in his chest. No one would take this away from him, especially not his unfaithful wife and her lover. Chapter 2, Fracture. The Mercer Christmas Gala transformed their estate into a winter wonderland of crystal, silver, and white roses. 200 of Connecticut's elite mingled under chandeliers, the air thick with expensive perfume and political ambition. Victor moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his custom tuxedo immaculate, his smile never reaching his eyes. "Spectacular as always, Victor," Governor Talon said, clapping him on the shoulder. Your security team is so discreet, I hardly noticed them. That's the point, Victor replied. The best security is invisible until needed. His eyes tracked Diana across the room, watching as she charmed donors in her crimson gown. The diamonds at her throat, his gift for their anniversary, caught the light with every laugh. She was performing flawlessly, except for the 6 times she checked her phone when she thought no one was looking. Victor's security director, Floyd Brenner, approached with 2 champagne flutes. A former Marine who'd served with Victor, Floyd was the only person Victor truly trusted. Perimeter secure, Floyd muttered, handing Victor a drink. Though your wife's had 3 text conversations in the last hour. Victor nodded imperceptibly. And our other matter? Confirmed. Russell Holt has a room at the Waldorf in Hartford. Checked in yesterday. Floyd's expression darkened. There's more. He's on a watch list. Treasury Department suspects him of funding arms deals in Eastern Europe. Nothing solid enough for charges yet. Interesting choice of lover, Victor said, his voice devoid of emotion. Have Jensen follow her if she leaves tonight. As midnight approached, Diana made her excuses to Victor, claiming a migraine. He played the concerned husband, suggested she take something and rest, aware of the overnight bag already hidden in her car. In their bedroom, Diana changed into casual clothes, applied fresh makeup, and crept down the service stairs. Victor watched on the security feed as she slipped into her Mercedes and drove away. She's heading east on Route 7, Floyd confirmed through Victor's earpiece. Jensen's following at a distance. Victor finished his conversation with the investment banker, excused himself, and returned to his office. On his screens, Diana's car pulled into the Waldorf's underground parking. Hotel security cameras, accessible thanks to a substantial maintenance contract Victor had arranged months earlier, showed Diana entering a suite on the 12th floor. Russell Holt's room, Floyd confirmed, entering the office. Wanting to send someone in? Not yet, Victor said. I need more than just an affair to work with. Victor accessed the hotel room's audio surveillance, installed by his team, disguised as maintenance workers. Diana's voice came through clearly. I'm scared, Russell. Victor's not stupid. He notices everything. You worry too much, Russell replied, his voice smooth with confidence. The transfer is almost complete. 2 more weeks, and we'll have everything moved. He'll never trace it. And then what? I just leave with the twins on a normal Tuesday. We've been over this. You file for divorce, claiming emotional neglect. With your documented charity work and his absences for business, custody won't be an issue. Then we disappear to the house in Geneva. The accounts are untraceable. Victor's expression didn't change as he realized the full scope of the betrayal. Not just an affair, they planned to take his children and a significant portion of his assets. The Christmas Eve plan is still best, Russell continued. While everyone's distracted with holiday festivities, we finalize the transfers. You give him the divorce papers the day after Christmas. By New Year's, it's done. As Diana agreed, Victor closed the feed and turned to Floyd. I want everything on Russell Holt. Every account, property, contact, and crime, suspected or confirmed. And I want our lawyers to review Diana's access to all accounts immediately. Floyd nodded. And the children? Move additional security to their wing. No one takes them anywhere without my explicit approval. Victor's voice was ice. Also, prepare the cabin in Vermont. We may need it. After Floyd left, Victor opened his safe and removed his satellite phone that couldn't be traced. He dialed a number few people possessed. It's Mercer, he said when a gruff voice answered. I'm calling in Blackwood Protocol. Authorization code Delta 7 Echo 09. The voice on the other end paused. Confirmed. Timeline, Christmas Eve, Victor replied. I'll send details in the usual way. 3 days before Christmas, Victor took the twins ice skating, buying Diana time to meet Russell again. He smiled and took photos as Leo and Lily wobbled across the ice, all while his team monitored Diana's meeting at an upscale restaurant in New Haven. That night, after tucking the twins into bed, Victor modified his security protocols. Any genuine love he'd felt for Diana had crystallized into something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. His enemies in business called him the Iceman for good reason. Victor didn't get angry. He got even, with a calculated precision that left nothing to chance. Christmas was coming, and with it, a reckoning no one but Victor would see coming. Chapter 3. Shatter. Christmas Eve arrived with picture-perfect snowfall that transformed the Mercer estate into something from a holiday card. Inside, the house buzzed with activity as staff prepared an intimate family dinner. Victor had arranged everything carefully. The twins' favorite foods, Diana's preferred wine, and a string quartet playing in the drawing room. "The musicians seem excessive for a family dinner," Diana commented, arranging poinsettias on the dining table. "The children love live music," Victor replied. "And it's Christmas Eve. Nothing is excessive." What he didn't mention was that the musicians were actually part of his security team, their instrument cases containing more than violins and cellos. As afternoon faded to evening, Victor played the role of doting father and husband perfectly. He helped the twins place cookies for Santa, read The Night Before Christmas, and even laughed at Diana's stories during dinner. Anyone watching would have seen a perfect family celebrating the holiday. After dinner, Victor poured Diana another glass of wine as the twins vibrated with excitement in their matching red pajamas. "Can we open just one present, please?" Lily begged, bouncing on her toes. "One small one," Victor agreed, selecting two identical boxes from under the enormous tree. "These are from Daddy." The twins tore into the packages, revealing custom snow globes with miniature replicas of their family inside the glass domes. "Look, it's us," Leo exclaimed, shaking the globe to send snow swirling around the tiny figures. "So we're always together, even when we're apart," Victor explained, his eyes meeting Diana's. Her smile faltered slightly. At 9 o'clock, Victor announced it was bedtime for the twins. Diana followed them upstairs to tuck them in, while Victor remained in the living room, checking his watch. When Diana returned, she was already on her phone, texting rapidly. "Victor, I need to run to my studio for the children's final gifts," she said without looking up. "I forgot to wrap them." "Of course," Victor replied. "I'll wait up." Diana hesitated. "Don't. I'll be a while. These gifts are complicated." Victor nodded agreeably. "Then I'll head to bed." In their bedroom, Diana gathered overnight toiletries while Victor pretended to read financial reports. He watched as she changed into more comfortable clothes and applied fresh lipstick. Not the actions of someone planning to wrap presents. "You've been distant lately," Diana said suddenly, her eyes meeting his in a mirror. "Always working, always on your phone." Victor recognized the strategy, projecting her own behaviors onto him, manufacturing an argument as cover for her exit. "Have I?" he replied mildly. "I thought I was just giving you space for your foundation work." Diana's eyes narrowed slightly. "Well, I need some space tonight. I'm stressed about tomorrow and the children's expectations." "Understand," Victor said. "Take all the space you need." With a final glance, Diana left the bedroom. Victor waited until he heard her car start before accessing his security system. Diana didn't head to her studio but drove directly toward the main gate. Victor changed into black tactical clothing and activated his earpiece. "She's on the move," Floyd's voice confirmed. "Heading toward Hartford. Everyone in position?" Victor asked. "Affirmative. SWAT team on standby. Hotel security has provided access to the service corridors." Victor checked the specialized equipment in his closet safe, then moved silently to the twins' room. Both children were sound asleep, unaware that their world was about to change forever. He adjusted their blankets and activated the security sensors around their beds that would alert him to any movement. At 11:30 p.m., Victor received confirmation that Diana had entered Russell's hotel suite. The audio surveillance activated automatically. "Everything's set," Diana was saying. "He doesn't suspect anything. The transfers are complete." "All done," Russell replied. "By the time he discovers anything, we'll be in Geneva with the children. The jet is fueled and waiting." "Did you get their passports made?" "Of course. Everything's prepared. We leave tomorrow night during the Christmas celebration. Your sister will help with the twins." Victor's expression didn't change as he heard his sister-in-law Valerie was involved. He simply added another name to his mental list. Victor walked to his office and pressed a button beneath his desk. Immediately, all electronic locks in the house engaged. He sent a prearranged text to Floyd, then changed into pajamas and settled onto the living room couch, positioning himself perfectly for what would come next. At 12:45 a.m., Diana's car returned. Victor heard her enter through the kitchen, then the sound of her heels on the marble floor as she approached the living room. She paused upon seeing him on the couch. "I thought you'd be in bed," she said, clearly unsettled. "Found the bedroom door locked," Victor replied evenly. "It was a text from you. Something about losers sleep on the couch." Diana's face paled slightly. "I was upset earlier. You know how stressed I get at Christmas." "Of course," Victor said, his tone conversational. "Stress makes people do strange things. Take overnight trips to see their lovers, for instance." Diana froze. "What are you talking about?" "Russell Holt. The Waldorf. Suite 1242. Victor maintained eye contact. "The planning to take my children to Geneva with falsified passports. That kind of stress." "You're paranoid," Diana whispered, but her hand trembled as she set down her purse. "You've always been controlling, always." "Spare me." Victor cut her off. "I have recordings of everything. Every meeting, plan, transfer from my accounts to the ones in Zurich." Diana's composure cracked. "It's not what you think. Russell and I—" "Save it for the authorities," Victor interrupted, checking his watch. "It's nearly time." "Time for what?" Diana's voice shook. Victor didn't answer, simply stretched out on the couch as if preparing to sleep. Diana stood uncertainly for a moment before heading upstairs. Her footsteps hurried. Victor counted down silently, knowing Diana would contact Russell immediately. The bedroom surveillance confirmed his prediction as she frantically whispered into her phone. "He knows. I don't know how much, but he knows. No, I don't think he has proof. Yes, we should accelerate. Tomorrow morning. I'll drug his coffee." Victor closed his eyes, not sleeping but waiting. At dawn, precise footsteps padded down the stairs. The twins, eager for Christmas morning. Victor feigned sleep until they approached the couch. "Daddy," Leo whispered, poking his arm. "Why are you sleeping here?" Victor opened his eyes slowly. "Mommy needed space last night." "Daddy," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with confusion. "There's a strange man in Mommy's room." Victor sat up, his expression carefully concerned. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" "We heard noises and peeked in," Leo confirmed. "He's in bed with Mommy." Victor nodded, placing a gentle hand on each child's shoulder. "I need you both to be very brave. Go to the kitchen and tell Ms. Winnie to give you breakfast in the safe room, just like we practiced in our safety drills. Can you do that?" The twins nodded solemnly and headed toward the kitchen. Victor waited until they were out of sight, then pulled out his phone and dialed. "They're ready," he said simply. Within 30 seconds, the pre-dawn quiet shattered as SWAT teams crashed through windows simultaneously throughout the house. Shouts of police, "Don't move," echoed through the halls as armed officers stormed up the stairs. Victor remained seated calmly on the couch as Diana's terrified screams mixed with a man's surprised shouts. Heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs as officers dragged a handcuffed Russell Holt into the living room, wearing only boxer shorts. "Russell Holt," announced the SWAT commander, "you're under arrest for money laundering, arms trafficking, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping." Diana appeared at the top of the stairs in her nightgown, flanked by 2 female officers. "Victor, what is happening?" "Tell them this is a mistake." Victor stood slowly, straightening his pajamas. "No mistake, Diana. Russell here is wanted in 3 countries. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate the man sleeping with my wife and planning to kidnap my children?" Diana's face contorted with rage and fear. "You bastard. You set this up." "Actually, you did," Victor replied calmly. "I just made sure the authorities knew where to find Mr. Holt. The money transfers you orchestrated were all tracked and documented. The falsified passports for my children were particularly interesting to Homeland Security." As Diana was handcuffed and read her rights, her eyes locked with Victor's. "This isn't over," she hissed. "For you, it is," Victor replied, his voice devoid of emotion. But you're right about one thing. He stepped closer, his voice dropping so only she could hear. This is just the beginning. Chapter 4. Foundation. 24 hours after the Christmas Eve raid, Victor sat in his attorney's office, reviewing documents while snow fell outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Hartford's tallest skyscraper. Bernard Wyatt, Victor's personal attorney for 15 years, spread files across the mahogany conference table. Diana's being held without bail, Bernard reported. The evidence of conspiracy to kidnap the twins is substantial. Russell Holt's situation is worse. Treasury Department has connected him to arms deals in Ukraine, plus the money laundering charges. Victor nodded, scanning the documents. And custody of the children? Temporary full custody granted to you this morning, Bernard confirmed. Given the circumstances, permanent sole custody shouldn't be difficult to secure. Bernard hesitated before continuing. Victor, Diana's family, is making noise. Her father called me threatening lawsuits for defamation. Senator Brighton can threaten all he wants, Victor replied, his tone dismissive. His political career won't survive his daughter's association with an arms dealer. He'll back off once he realizes that. And your sister-in-law, Valerie, currently being questioned about her role in the planned kidnapping, Victor said, checking his watch. The twins are staying with my mother until things settle. Bernard leaned forward. Victor, I've known you a long time. This seems unusually well prepared, even for you. Victor's eyes met his lawyer's. When someone plans to steal your children and your money, Bernard, preparation is essential. After the meeting, Victor drove to a nondescript warehouse in an industrial area outside Hartford. Inside, Floyd had established a secure operations center with multiple workstations and screens displaying surveillance footage. Senator Brighton visited Diana at the detention center an hour ago, Floyd reported. Their conversation was recorded as per your arrangement with the district attorney. Victor watched the footage of Diana's tearful pleas to her father. The senator looked ashen, his usual confidence shattered as Diana explained her situation. I need you to dig deeper into Brighton's connection to Holt, Victor instructed. Diana didn't choose Russell randomly. There's a pattern I'm not seeing yet. Floyd nodded. Already on it. Something else you should know. The twins' nanny, Winnie, has been accepting payments from Diana's personal account. $50,000 over the past 3 months. Victor's expression hardened. Bring her in. An hour later, Winnie Parker sat nervously across from Victor in a sterile interrogation room within the warehouse. At 58, she'd been with the family since the twins were born. Mr. Mercer, I can explain, she began, her hands trembling. Please do, Victor replied, his voice dangerously soft. Explain why the woman I trusted with my children was accepting bribes from my wife. Mrs. Mercer said it was for a surprise trip for the children. Winnie stammered. She asked me to gather information about their schedules, their medications, their favorite toys and clothes, things to pack for a vacation. And you didn't find that suspicious? The secret of payments? The detailed information about my children's routines. Tears welled in Winnie's eyes. I thought it was a surprise for you too. A family trip. Victor studied her for a long moment. Were you aware the children were to be taken out of the country without my knowledge or consent? No, I swear. Winnie's voice cracked. I would never help someone take those children away from you. I've seen how much you love them, even if you don't always show it like others might. Victor made a decision. You'll provide a complete statement to my security team. Everything Diana asked, every detail you provided. If your information proves useful and your ignorance genuine, you may avoid criminal charges. After Winnie was led away, Floyd approached with a tablet. You believe her? Not entirely, Victor replied. Keep her under surveillance and replace her immediately. I want someone we can trust absolutely with the twins. Already vetted 3 candidates, Floyd confirmed. Former Secret Service, specialized in child protection. Victor nodded his approval. What about Diana's sister? Valerie was released 2 hours ago. She's claiming she knew nothing about kidnapping plans. Thought Diana was just leaving you. She's lying, Victor stated flatly. The surveillance at her apartment picked up multiple conversations about the Swiss arrangements. Keep her under watch, but don't interfere yet. She'll lead us to others involved. Later that night, Victor visited his mother's lakeside home where the twins were staying. At 70, Margaret Mercer maintained the sharp intellect and direct manner that had helped her raise Victor alone after his father's death in military service. "They're asleep," Margaret informed him as he entered. "They've been asking questions I can't answer." Victor removed his coat. "What did you tell them? That their mother had to go away for a while, and that you're doing everything to keep them safe?" Margaret's steely gaze fixed on her son. "Now tell me what's really happening. Your calls have been cryptic at best." Victor explained the situation concisely, leaving out only the most disturbing details. Margaret listened without interruption, her expression growing grimmer with each revelation. "I always thought Diana was playing a role," she finally said. "Too perfect, too practiced." She paused. "What are you planning, Victor? I know that look." "Justice," Victor replied simply. Margaret shook her head. "No, that's your public face. I'm asking what you're really planning." Victor met his mother's gaze unflinchingly. "Diana and her associates didn't just betray me. They plan to take my children, your grandchildren, forever. They will face consequences beyond what the legal system provides." "Be careful," Margaret warned. "The twins still love their mother, despite everything. Whatever you do will affect them too." "I'm always careful," Victor assured her. "And the twins will understand eventually that everything I do is to protect them." As Victor left his mother's house, his phone buzzed with a message from Floyd. Connection confirmed between Senator Brighton and Russell Holt. Offshore accounts linked to defense contracts. Files available on secure server. Victor smiled coldly as he started his car. The web was expanding exactly as he'd anticipated, revealing connections and conspiracies that would prove useful. Diana, Russell, Senator Brighton, Valerie, all of them would soon discover the high price of crossing Victor Mercer. His plan wasn't just about punishment. It was about dismantling their entire world, piece by methodical piece, until nothing remained but the ruins of their own making. Chapter 5. Structure. 3 weeks after the arrests, Victor stood in his home office, reviewing the evidence boards that now covered an entire wall. Photos, documents, bank statements, and transcripts were connected by color-coded strings, creating a visual map of the conspiracy against him. Senator Brighton's face featured prominently, connected to Russell Holt through defense contracts and offshore accounts. Diana's sister Valerie was linked to both through numerous phone calls and meetings. Additional photos showed associates of Holt, lawyers, bankers, and several political figures, including Governor Talon. Floyd entered with fresh coffee. Forensic accountants finished their analysis. The money trail goes back 18 months, long before Diana met Holt at your charity gala. Victor's eyes narrowed. She was looking for someone like him all along. Appears so. Brighton introduced them, supposedly for charitable donations to Diana's foundation. But the foundation was transferring funds to shell companies owned by Holt almost immediately afterward. So Diana's foundation was a money laundering operation, Victor concluded, with her father's knowledge and assistance. Floyd nodded. Brighton's been feeding classified defense information to Holt for years. Diana was their conduit, using her position as your wife to access certain circles without suspicion. Victor absorbed this information, adding it to his mental calculation. What about Valerie, former intelligence analyst for the State Department, before she conveniently resigned to focus on family? She's been the operational planner, using her government contacts. The pieces were falling into place. Victor hadn't just been betrayed by his wife. He'd been targeted specifically because of his wealth, connections, and security expertise. Diana had never loved him. He'd been selected as part of a long-term operation. The twins, Victor said suddenly. When were they planning to take them? Floyd hesitated. Based on the timeline we've reconstructed, the plan was always Christmas night. Diana would drug your coffee during Christmas dinner. Then Valerie would arrive, claiming to take the twins shopping while you slept. They'd be on Holt's private jet to Geneva before you woke up. A cold fury settled in Victor's chest. And the evidence against me they manufactured? Substantial, Floyd admitted. Falsified financial records showing you embezzling from government contracts. Fabricated emails suggesting threats against Diana. Manipulated photos showing you with other women. They were building a case that you were abusive, unfaithful, and criminal. Victor's jaw tightened, all to ensure Diana got custody and access to my assets. They underestimated you, Floyd observed. They always do, Victor replied. That afternoon, Victor visited Diana at the women's detention center. She sat across from him in a gray jumpsuit, her usually perfect appearance now haggard, dark circles under her eyes. Come to gloat, she asked bitterly. To understand, Victor countered. 18 months of planning. The foundation, the affair, the prepared evidence against me. What? Diana's laugh was hollow. You still don't get it, do you? You were never the target, Victor. Your contracts were. Your security systems protect half the government's classified operations. Russell needed access. So you married me, had my children, all for an intelligence operation? Victor kept his voice steady despite the rage building inside. The children weren't planned, Diana admitted, a flash of something like regret crossing her face. But they became useful. A man like you would never abandon his legacy. And now, Victor asked, what's your play now that you've failed? Diana leaned forward. My father is still a senator. Russell still has powerful friends. This isn't over, Victor. One way or another, I'll get out. And when I do, I'll take everything you love. Victor studied her, seeing for the first time the complete absence of the woman he thought he'd married. No, Diana, you won't. Because unlike you, I don't make threats. I make promises. As he stood to leave, Diana called after him. The twins ask about me. They must miss their mother. Victor turned back. They asked once. I told them the truth, that the person they thought was their mother never really existed. That night, Victor met with District Attorney Monica Vance in a private room at his club in Hartford. At 55, Vance had a reputation for ruthless prosecution and political ambition. The evidence against Senator Brighton is concerning, she said after reviewing Victor's files. But moving against a sitting senator requires ironclad proof and political support, both of which I've provided, Victor noted. The offshore accounts, the classified information leaks, the conspiracy to kidnap American citizens. It's all documented. Vance tapped the files. With your evidence and testimony, I can convene a grand jury. But Brighton will fight back hard. Let him, Victor replied. Everything I've given you is legally obtained and admissible. And there's more where that came from. What do you want from this, Victor? Vance asked directly. Revenge. Justice, Victor corrected. For my children who nearly became pawns in an international conspiracy. And for the government's secrets that were compromised. Vance nodded slowly. I'll move forward with this. But be prepared. Once I file these charges, Brighton and his allies will come at you with everything they have. I'm counting on it, Victor said with a cold smile. The following morning, as Victor reviewed security protocols with his team at the warehouse, Floyd received an urgent call. We have a situation, he reported after hanging up. Valerie just boarded a flight to Zurich despite being under court order not to leave the state. Let her go, Victor instructed. She'll lead us to the rest of their network. Alert our Swiss contacts to maintain surveillance, but take no action. There's more, Floyd continued. Governor Talon has called an emergency press conference for noon today. Victor checked his watch. Right on schedule. They're mobilizing their political assets to try to get ahead of this. At noon, Victor watched from his office as Governor Talon stood before cameras, his expression grave. It has come to my attention that Victor Mercer, a defense contractor with access to sensitive government information, has been using his position to fabricate evidence against respected public servants, including Senator Brighton. These baseless accusations appear to be retaliation for personal matters and have no place in our justice system. Victor smiled as the governor continued his prepared statement defending Brighton and questioning Victor's mental stability following his marital problems. Predictable, he commented to Floyd. They're trying to discredit me before the DEA files charges. It could work, Floyd pointed out. Talon has considerable influence with the media. He does, Victor agreed. But unlike Brighton, the governor has always been careless. He turned to his computer and sent a pre-prepared email to every major news outlet in the country. Within an hour, breaking news alerts interrupted regular programming as reporters revealed documents showing Governor Talon had received millions in kickbacks from defense contracts arranged by Russell Holt through Senator Brighton's office. The evidence, provided by an anonymous source, included bank transfers, recorded conversations, and photographs of meetings. As Talon's press conference imploded with reporters shouting questions about the new allegations, Victor received a call from DA Vance. "This wasn't our agreement," she said angrily. "I was supposed to handle the legal process, not be blindsided by media leaks." "The leaks didn't come from me," Victor replied calmly. "Though I'm not surprised someone else had similar evidence. Corruption this extensive leaves many trails. Brighton is screaming for your arrest, claiming harassment and defamation." "Let him scream," Victor said. "By this time tomorrow, he'll be too busy defending himself to worry about me." After hanging up, Victor turned to Floyd. "Phase 2 begins now. Contact our people in Zurich. It's time to follow the money all the way to the source." As news of the corruption scandal spread, Victor received a text from his mother. The twins saw the news about Diana. "They have questions I can't answer." Victor closed his eyes briefly. His children were the only vulnerability in his armor, the only consideration that might give him pause. But they were also his reason for pursuing this course so relentlessly. They deserved to know the truth, however painful. "I'm on my way," he texted back. When he arrived at his mother's house, Leo and Lily were sitting on the porch swing, unusually subdued. Victor sat between them, putting an arm around each child. Ms. Winnie said Mommy did something bad. Lily said quietly, "That's why she's in jail." "Is Mommy a criminal?" Leo asked, his voice small. Victor chose his words carefully. "Your mother made some very bad choices. She worked with people who were doing wrong things. Did she stop loving us?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. Victor pulled her closer. "Sometimes adults get confused about what's important. They make mistakes that hurt people they should protect." "Will we ever see her again?" Leo asked. "I don't know," Victor answered honestly. "But I promise you both, I will always be here. I will always protect you. And nothing is more important to me than you." As the twins leaned against him, seeking comfort in his embrace, Victor's resolve hardened further. Diana, Brighton, Holt, and everyone else involved in the conspiracy would pay not just for betraying him, but for being willing to use Leo and Lily as pawns in their scheme. The plan was moving forward exactly as Victor had designed. The political dominoes were falling. The financial web was unraveling. And soon, the final phase would begin. Chapter 6, Blueprint. 1 month after the scandal broke, Victor sat in a secure conference room at the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. Across from him, 3 federal prosecutors and the director of the FBI reviewed the mountain of evidence he'd provided. "Mr. Mercer, I want to be clear," said Director Phillips, a career FBI man with a reputation for incorruptibility. "The scope of this conspiracy extends beyond anything we initially suspected. Senator Brighton appears to have been selling military intelligence to foreign interests for nearly a decade." Victor nodded. "That aligns with my findings. My wife's foundation was just one of many laundering operations they used." "And you had no knowledge of these activities until recently?" asked the lead prosecutor, Eleanor Walsh. "I had suspicions about my wife's fidelity," Victor replied carefully. "The financial discrepancies in her foundation caught my attention during a routine audit. That led me to investigate further, which uncovered the broader conspiracy." Director Phillips leaned forward. "You understand that your cooperation, while appreciated, doesn't guarantee immunity if we discover you had any involvement?" "I welcome the scrutiny," Victor said confidently. "My security contracts with the government have been transparent and rigorously documented. I have nothing to hide." After the meeting, Victor was escorted out through a private exit to avoid the press that had been camped outside federal buildings since Senator Brighton's arrest 3 days earlier. The political earthquake had claimed 6 senators, 2 governors, and dozens of lower officials so far, with more revelations coming daily. In his car, Victor checked secure messages from Floyd. Swiss accounts emptied 48 hours before we gained access. Funds traced to Cayman Islands, then lost. Victor wasn't concerned. The money had always been a secondary objective, merely bait to lure bigger fish. The primary goal, dismantling the network that had infiltrated his life and threatened his children, was progressing perfectly. His next stop was the federal detention center where Russell Holt was being held without bail. Unlike Diana, who maintained her defiance, Holt had been cooperating with authorities, desperate to save himself. In the visitor's room, Holt looked diminished in his orange jumpsuit, his former confidence replaced by nervous energy. "I wondered when you'd come," Holt said as Victor sat across from him. "Come to see the man who almost took everything from you." Almost being the operative word, Victor replied calmly. "I came to understand something. Why Diana specifically? There are easier targets for a man with your resources." Holt's laugh was bitter. "You really have no idea who you are, do you, Mercer? Your background checks, your security protocols, they're legendary. Breaking through them gave us access to everything. So I was the target all along," Victor concluded. "Diana was just your way in. She volunteered," Holt said with a shrug. "Brighton suggested using her to get to you, and she jumped at the chance. Said she'd always wanted to see how the other half lived. And the twins." Victor kept his voice steady. Holt had the decency to look uncomfortable. That was never part of the original plan. Diana wasn't supposed to get pregnant. When she did, Brighton saw an opportunity, a more permanent hold over you. Victor absorbed this information, fitting it into the puzzle he'd been assembling. "You're cooperating with the feds. What are you giving them?" "Everything I know," Holt admitted. "Names, accounts, operations. I'm looking at 20 years instead of life, if I'm lucky." "And Diana? You're giving her up too?" Holt's expression hardened. "She threw me under the bus first chance she got. Claimed I manipulated her, that she feared for her life. Brighton's lawyers are already building a coercion defense for her." Victor stood to leave. "Thank you for your honesty. It's been illuminating." "Wait," Holt called after him. "There's something you should know. Diana has contingencies you haven't found yet. She always does. Whatever you think you know, it's not everything." Victor paused. "I'm counting on that," he said before walking away. Later that evening, Victor met Floyd at the Warehouse Operations Center. The wall of evidence had expanded, now incorporating federal intelligence and financial data obtained through official channels. Holt wasn't lying about Diana's defense strategy, Floyd reported. Her lawyers filed motions today claiming she acted under duress and fear for her life. They're painting her as another victim. "Expect it," Victor noted. "Brighton's influence still carries weight, even from a cell." "What about Valerie?" "Swiss authorities found her dead in her hotel room this morning. Apparent suicide, but the timing is suspicious." Victor studied the surveillance photos of Valerie's last known movements. She knew too much. Brighton's cleaning house. From prison. Floyd sounded skeptical. "He has resources we haven't identified yet," Victor said. "Valerie's death confirms it. We need to accelerate our timeline." Floyd nodded toward a separate evidence board. "The twins' security is airtight. New protective detail is in place at your mother's house. The school has been briefed on enhanced protocols." "Good. What about Diana's court appearance tomorrow?" "Security will be heavy. Brighton's lawyers have requested a bail hearing based on the new coercion claims." Victor considered this information. "She won't get bail, but that's not the real play. They're using the court appearance to send a message or make a move we're not seeing yet." That night, Victor couldn't sleep. Holt's warning about Diana's contingencies nagged at him. Despite all his preparation, all his evidence, something still felt incomplete. At 3 a.m., he called the night security team at his mother's house. "Status report on the twins." "All secure, sir," the team leader reported. "Both children asleep. Perimeter clear. No unusual activity." Victor ended the call, but couldn't shake his unease. On instinct, he drove to his mother's house, arriving just before dawn. The security team admitted him without question, having been briefed to expect him at any time. He checked on the twins, finding them safely asleep in their beds. His mother was already awake, reading in her study. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked as he entered. "Loose ends," Victor replied, accepting the coffee she offered. "I need your help with something." Margaret studied her son. "You're worried about tomorrow. Diana's court appearance." I'm concerned about what we're missing, Victor admitted. Diana had access to my life for 8 years. There are connections I may not see because I'm too close to it. Margaret set down her book. What do you need from me? Perspective. Diana studied me, learned my patterns. What would she consider my blind spot? His mother considered the question carefully. Your children, she finally said. Not their physical safety. You've always been obsessive about security. But their emotional well-being. Diana would know that despite your outward coldness, you would do anything to protect the twins from emotional harm. Victor processed this insight. She'd used the children as emotional leverage. She already is, Margaret pointed out. Her coercion defense paints her as a victim, someone the children should pity and forgive. If they believe that narrative, they might turn against me eventually, Victor finished the thought. See me as the villain who punished their victimized mother. Exactly, Margaret confirmed. Diana is playing the long game. Even if she serves time, she's positioning herself for eventual reconciliation with the twins. When they're older, they might choose her version of events over yours. The realization struck Victor with unexpected force. He'd been focused on the legal battle, the financial maneuvering, the dismantling of Brighton's network. But Diana's most dangerous play was for the hearts and minds of his children, a battlefield where his usual tactical advantages meant nothing. I need to show the twins who she really is, Victor said, more to himself than his mother. Not tell them, show them, in a way they'll understand when they're older. Be careful, Victor, Margaret warned. Children see the world differently. What seems like justice to you might look like cruelty to them. Victor nodded, already formulating the final phase of his plan. I won't turn them against her. I'll simply ensure they have access to the unvarnished truth when they're ready for it. As dawn broke, Victor left his mother's house with renewed purpose. Diana's court appearance that day wasn't just a legal proceeding. It was the beginning of the final confrontation, a battle for the future that extended far beyond prison sentences and seized assets. He made a series of calls, setting new pieces in motion. By the time he arrived at the courthouse, everything was prepared for what would come next. Diana entered the courtroom looking appropriately subdued in a modest gray dress, her hair pulled back simply. Her lawyers had staged the appearance carefully. Gone was the wealthy socialite, replaced by a woman who appeared vulnerable and afraid. Victor watched impassively from his seat as her attorney argued passionately for bail, presenting affidavits from psychiatrists claiming Diana suffered from emotional abuse and coercive control during her marriage to Victor. Your Honor, Mrs. Mercer was a victim herself, the lawyer insisted. She acted under extreme duress, fearing not only for her own safety, but for her children's well-being. Mr. Holt exploited her vulnerability, as did her father. The prosecutor challenged these claims vigorously, presenting evidence of Diana's willing participation in the conspiracy. As the arguments continued, Victor noticed Diana watching him, gauging his reaction to the character assassination being performed in the courtroom. When it was his turn to testify, Victor spoke calmly about the evidence he'd discovered, the threats to his children, and the elaborate deception Diana had maintained. He never raised his voice, never showed anger, just presented facts with clinical precision. During cross-examination, Diana's attorney attempted to portray Victor as controlling and emotionally abusive. Mr. Mercer, isn't it true that you monitored your wife's communications without her knowledge or consent? I installed security measures in my home after detecting unauthorized access to sensitive information related to government contracts, Victor replied evenly. As the CEO of a security firm with classified clearance, I'm legally obligated to investigate potential breaches. And isn't it true that you controlled all the family finances, giving your wife only limited access to funds? My wife maintained sole control of her foundation, which received millions in funding annually, Victor countered. The financial records show she transferred those funds to accounts controlled by Mr. Holt. At the end of the hearing, the judge denied bail, citing the serious nature of the charges and the risk of flight. As Diana was led away by marshals, she looked directly at Victor and mouthed words only he could see. The twins will know. It was the confirmation Victor needed. Diana's contingency plan involved turning his children against him. She had prepared something, evidence, testimonials, manipulated recordings, that would paint him as the villain when the twins were old enough to understand. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions as Victor walked to his car. He made no comment, maintaining the stoic facade that had become his public image throughout the scandal. Back at the warehouse, Floyd was waiting with updates. "We found it," he said without preamble. "Diana's insurance policy. It was hidden in a safe deposit box registered to her childhood nanny." Victor examined the contents spread across the table. Documents, flash drives, photographs, and handwritten journals, all carefully crafted to present Diana as a desperate mother trying to escape a controlling, dangerous husband. "She's been building this archive for years," Floyd observed, "long before the actual conspiracy began. It's quite thorough. Manipulated recordings of arguments, edited emails, testimonials from friends claiming you were abusive." Victor nodded slowly, all designed to convince Leo and Lily that their mother was the victim and I was the monster. "What do you want to do with it?" Floyd asked. Victor considered the question carefully. "Preserve it exactly as is, then create a parallel archive with the truth, the actual recordings, the unedited emails, the evidence of conspiracy. When the twins are older, they'll have both versions and can judge for themselves. And Diana?" Victor's expression hardened. "She needs to understand that this final play has failed too. That no matter what she does, she can't turn my children against me or rewrite history to cast herself as the victim." "How do you plan to show her that?" Victor outlined his strategy quickly. Floyd listened, his expression growing increasingly concerned. "That's crossing a line, Victor," he finally said. "Everything up to now has been legal, if ruthless. This is different. The law has limits," Victor replied. "Diana, Brighton, and their network don't respect those limits. Neither will I when it comes to protecting my children, not just their physical safety, but their understanding of the truth." After Floyd reluctantly agreed to assist, Victor made one final call to DA Vance. "I need a private conversation with Diana before her transfer to federal custody," he requested. "That's highly irregular," Vance objected. "Her attorneys would need to be present." "Not if she waives that right," Victor countered. "And she will, because she believes she still has leverage over me." "What leverage?" "Something she thinks I don't know about. Her contingency plan involving my children. Give us 15 minutes alone, with recording equipment disabled." Vance was silent for a moment. "I don't want to know why, do I?" "It's better if you don't," Victor confirmed. That evening, in a bare concrete room at the detention center, Victor waited as Diana was brought in, handcuffed and wearing prison orange. The guards removed her restraints and left them alone as arranged. "I'm surprised you wanted to see me," Diana said, taking the seat across from him, "especially without lawyers present." "I wanted to speak frankly," Victor replied, "about your insurance policy." Diana's composure faltered briefly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The safe deposit box in Matilda Jenkins' name. Your childhood nanny." Victor watched realization dawn on Diana's face. "Yes, I found it. The journals, the recordings, the testimonials, all designed to convince Leo and Lily that you were the victim. They deserve to know the truth," Diana hissed, dropping the vulnerable facade. "That their father is a controlling monster who destroyed their mother's life." "That would be quite the story," Victor agreed, "if any of it were true. But we both know it isn't." "It doesn't matter what's true," Diana countered. "Only what they believe. And children always want to believe the best of their mother." Victor leaned forward. "That's where you're wrong, Diana. Children want the truth. And I'm going to make sure they have it. All of it, including parts you don't know exist." For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Diana's eyes. "What are you talking about?" "Every room in our house was monitored, not just for security, but for preservation of the truth. Every conversation you had planning to kidnap them, every call with your father and Holt discussing them as pawns in your game. I have it all. And when Leo and Lily are old enough, they'll hear it in your own voice." "You're bluffing," Diana whispered, but her confidence was cracking. Victor pulled out a small recorder and pressed play. Diana's voice filled the room. "The twins are just collateral. Victor's obsessed with his legacy. We use them, we control him. That's not, I never, Diana stammered. Your contingency plan failed, Victor said quietly, stopping the recording. Like all your other plans. You will never turn my children against me. You will never rewrite our history. You've lost, Diana. Completely and finally. Diana's face contorted with rage. This isn't over, Victor. You think you've won? Brighton's network goes deeper than you know. There are people you haven't even identified who will make sure you pay for this. I'm counting on them to try, Victor replied, standing to leave. Because every enemy who comes for me is another thread I can pull to unravel what remains of your conspiracy. As Victor walked toward the door, Diana called after him, her voice desperate. The twins will hate you when they learn what you've done to me. Victor turned back one last time. No, Diana. They'll understand that I did what was necessary to protect them from a mother who saw them as nothing more than leverage. As the door closed behind him, Victor felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. Phase 2 was complete. All the pieces were in place for the final act. Not just legal justice, but a reckoning that would ensure Diana and her conspirators could never threaten his family again. Chapter 7. Execution. 6 months after Diana's arrest, Victor sat in his home office reviewing reports from his global security teams. Senator Brighton had been sentenced to 20 years for espionage and conspiracy. Russell Holt faced multiple life sentences for arms dealing and money laundering. The political and financial network they had built was in ruins, with dozens of co-conspirators either imprisoned or cooperating with authorities. Diana's trial was scheduled to begin in 3 weeks. Despite the mountain of evidence against her, Brighton had leveraged his remaining influence to assemble a formidable defense team. They continued to push the narrative that Diana had been a victim of coercion and manipulation by both her father and Holt. Floyd entered with the daily security briefing. The twins' school reported another incident. A woman claiming to be Diana's cousin attempted to contact Leo during recess. Security intercepted her before any conversation occurred. Victor frowned. Identification, false credentials. When questioned, she refused to cooperate. Local police have her in custody, but she hasn't been linked to any known associates yet. Increase security at the school, Victor instructed, and move the twins to the Vermont property this weekend as planned. I don't want them anywhere near Connecticut during Diana's trial. Floyd hesitated before continuing. There's something else. Diana's attorneys filed a motion requesting supervised visitation with the children. They're arguing that prolonged separation is causing psychological harm. Victor's expression hardened. Denied immediately. The court already ruled that no contact is permitted while charges are pending. Her team is persistent. They've scheduled a hearing with a different judge, claiming new psychological evaluations support their position. Have Bernard handle it, Victor said dismissively. The federal charges alone preclude any visitation rights. After Floyd left, Victor turned to the wall of evidence that remained in his office, a scaled-down version of the comprehensive case file. Something about the recent attempts to contact the twins bothered him. Diana remained in federal custody with limited communication privileges. These coordinated efforts suggested she still had resources and allies Victor hadn't identified. He activated the secure line to his contact at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I need Diana Mercer's complete communication log for the past month. Calls, visitors, correspondence, everything. Within an hour, Victor was reviewing Diana's prison records. She had received visits from her attorneys and one approved family member, a cousin named Patricia Loden. Victor immediately ran a background check on Loden, discovering she had visited Diana weekly for the past 2 months. Floyd, Victor called over the intercom. Give me everything on Patricia Loden, age 43, resident of Baltimore. Priority 1. The results were troubling. Patricia Loden had no criminal record, but had worked for a private intelligence firm with connections to several foreign governments. The woman intercepted at the twins' school matched Loden's description, but had used false identification. Victor made another call to his federal contact. I need the surveillance footage from Diana Mercer's meetings with Patricia Loden. There's a security concern regarding my children. The footage arrived encrypted on Victor's secure server. He watched each meeting carefully, noting that the women spoke quietly, often with their heads close together to avoid the microphones. In the third meeting, Victor observed Diana passing something small to Loden beneath the table, possibly a note or memory card. She's still running operations from inside, Victor murmured to himself. The realization was both concerning and useful. If Diana was violating the terms of her pre-trial confinement, it would strengthen the case against her and eliminate any possibility of the reduced charges her lawyers were seeking. Victor compiled the evidence and sent it to DA Vance with a brief message. Diana Mercer is communicating with outside operatives through her cousin. My children may be at risk. Vance responded immediately. Cell search authorized. Loden being brought in for questioning. Additional security measures implemented at detention center. That evening, Victor received an unexpected call from Vance. We found something during the cell search, she reported. A phone, cleverly hidden in Diana's personal items. The call history shows frequent communication with a prepaid number we haven't identified yet. And Loden? Victor asked. Denied everything initially, but we found multiple burner phones in her possession, along with $50,000 in cash. She's talking now, claiming Diana was trying to arrange for the twins to be taken to Switzerland through a network of associates. Victor's grip tightened on the phone. Another kidnapping attempt. It appears so, Vance confirmed. We're adding additional charges of attempted kidnapping and conspiracy. This eliminates any chance of the reduced charges her defense was seeking. After ending the call, Victor summoned Floyd for an emergency meeting. Diana is still active. She was planning another attempt to take the twins. Floyd processed this information quickly. The Vermont move is compromised then. They'll be expecting it. Exactly. We need to change plans. Victor pulled up a map on his computer. My mother's property in Montana. It's remote, secure, and not associated with me officially. The property is held by a trust under her maiden name. When do we move? Tonight, Victor decided. Quietly, with minimal personnel. Use the medical evacuation protocol we established. It allows for immediate removal of the children from school without alerting the standard security channels. While Floyd mobilized the security team, Victor visited the twins at his mother's house. Leo and Lily were playing a board game in the sunroom, monitored by their new nanny, a former Secret Service agent named Teresa. Daddy, Lily exclaimed, running to hug him. Are you staying for dinner? Miss Teresa made spaghetti. Victor embraced his daughter, then his son. Actually, I have a surprise. How would you like to take a trip to see the mountains? We can leave tonight. Leo's eyes widened. Like a vacation? What about school? I've arranged for your lessons to continue wherever we go, Victor assured him. Think of it as an adventure. Will Grandma come too? Lily asked. Of course. It's her special house we're going to. Victor knelt to their level. I need you both to pack quickly, just like we practiced in our drills. Can you do that? The twins nodded solemnly and hurried upstairs with Teresa. Victor found his mother in the kitchen. Diana, Margaret asked simply. Still dangerous, Victor confirmed. She was orchestrating another attempt to take the twins through her cousin. Margaret nodded, her expression grim. Montana, then? I'll pack immediately. Thank you, Victor said, squeezing his mother's hand. For understanding. Understand more than you think, Margaret replied. I've always known what you're capable of, Victor. Just remember that whatever you do, the twins will eventually learn about it. Make sure you can justify your actions to them someday. The warning gave Victor pause. His mother was right. Every action he took would eventually be judged by his children. The question was whether they would understand the necessity of his methods when faced with Diana's relentless attempts to control them. For hours later, Victor's private jet took off from a small airfield outside Hartford. The twins were asleep in the cabin, along with Margaret and Teresa. Floyd had arranged for a decoy operation to make it appear they had gone to Vermont as originally planned. Victor used the secure satellite connection to contact DA Vance again. I've moved my family to a secure location. What's the status on Loden? Cooperating fully now, Vance reported. She's identified 3 other operatives involved in the kidnapping plan. Federal agents are moving to apprehend them now. And Diana? Isolated in maximum security, with no outside contact beyond her primary attorney. The additional charges have been filed. Her trial has been moved up given the new evidence of ongoing criminal activity. Victor ended the call satisfied that Diana's immediate threat had been neutralized, but her persistence troubled him. Even with her assets frozen and her father imprisoned, she had managed to orchestrate another operation. It suggested connections and resources Victor hadn't yet identified, a hidden network still loyal to Brighton and, by extension, to Diana. In Montana, Victor established a new security protocol at his mother's sprawling ranch property. Remote and self-sufficient, with its own power generation and water supply, the property had been Victor's contingency location for years. Few people knew of its connection to the Mercer family. 2 days after their arrival, Floyd joined them with troubling news. We've identified a pattern in Brighton's visitor logs. Before Diana's arrest, he had regular meetings with a former military intelligence officer named Walter Gaines. After his own arrest, those meetings continued under the guise of legal consultations. Victor recognized the name immediately. Gaines was discharged for selling classified information 10 years ago. Charges were dropped mysteriously. Exactly. He's been operating as a private intelligence contractor since then, with clients including several hostile governments. We believe he's been coordinating the remnants of Brighton's network. Find him, Victor ordered. Whatever it takes. Over the next week, Victor divided his time between securing the Montana property and directing the hunt for Gaines. The twins adjusted to their new environment quickly, enjoying the horses and wide-open spaces of the ranch. Victor arranged for tutors to continue their education while maintaining strict security protocols. 8 days after relocating to Montana, Victor received an encrypted message from Floyd, Gaines located, operating from a private compound in Wyoming. Surveillance confirms communication with Diana's attorney. Victor studied the satellite imagery of Gaines' compound. It was well fortified with private security, unusual for a supposed consultant. More concerning were the communications intercepts showing regular encrypted transmissions to overseas locations associated with arms dealers who had worked with Holt. He's rebuilding the network, Victor concluded, using Diana's legal team as a conduit for information. Victor contacted DA Vance with the evidence, but her response was frustrating. We need more direct proof linking Gaines to criminal activity. Suspicious communications aren't enough for a warrant. Recognizing the limitations of legal channels, Victor made a decision. That night, he contacted former teammates from his Special Forces days who now worked in private security. I need a non-official operation, Victor explained to Travis Redmond, his former second-in-command. Surveillance and intelligence gathering only. Target is a former intelligence officer running operations against my family. Off the books completely? Travis asked. Completely. This stays between us. Travis didn't hesitate. Send the details. I'll assemble a team. 3 days later, Travis delivered the results of their covert surveillance. Gaines was indeed coordinating what remained of Brighton's network, using encrypted communications to contact former associates of Holt. More disturbing were the plans they discovered, not just for helping Diana, but for eliminating Victor. They're planning an assassination, Travis reported bluntly. Time to coincide with Diana's trial. With you gone, they believe the evidence against the broader conspiracy dies too. Victor reviewed the intelligence calmly. And the twins? Part of the plan includes extracting them during the confusion following your death. They have detailed schedules, security protocols, information that could only have come from someone close to your operations. We have a leak, Victor concluded. Someone on my security team or legal team is feeding them information. It appears so, Travis agreed. We need to flush them out. Victor devised a strategy immediately. Feed false information through separate channels. Different extraction plans, different schedules. See which one Gaines acts on. The trap was set carefully. Through various channels, Victor's team disseminated conflicting information about his plans to return to Connecticut for Diana's trial. Each version included different dates, different security protocols, different transportation arrangements, each shared with a limited group of individuals. 4 days later, The traitor revealed himself when Gaines' team began preparations based on information shared exclusively with Bernard Wyatt's legal assistant, Michael Trent. Surveillance confirmed Trent had been communicating with Gaines through an encrypted messaging app. "I want everything on Trent," Victor instructed Floyd. "Family, finances, connections, anything that explains his motivation." The investigation revealed that Trent's sister had been involved with one of Holt's associates years earlier. Financial records showed regular payments to an offshore account in Trent's name, beginning shortly after he joined Bernard's firm. "He's been their plant from the beginning," Floyd concluded, "positioned specifically to monitor your legal strategies." "Which means they've known our moves before we made them," Victor said grimly. Until now. Victor arranged for Trent to receive very specific information about an apparent vulnerability in the security plan for Diana's upcoming trial. A fabricated detail suggesting Victor would be present in a particular location at a specific time. When Gaines' team mobilized based on this information, federal agents were waiting. The resulting raid captured not only Gaines, but 5 of his operatives and a cache of weapons and intelligence materials. The evidence was unambiguous, detailed plans to assassinate Victor and abduct the twins. DA Vance called Victor personally to deliver the news. Gaines and his team are in custody. The evidence links them directly to both Brighton and Diana through financial transactions and communications. This effectively ends any chance of Diana presenting herself as a victim at trial. "And Trent?" Victor asked. "Arrested this morning. He's already talking, hoping for leniency. His information should help us identify any remaining elements of the network." After ending the call, Victor gazed out at the Montana mountains, watching as the twins rode horses with their grandmother in the distance. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but he knew the fight wasn't over. Diana would continue to seek ways to strike at him, to reclaim the twins, to rewrite the narrative of her crimes. Victor's phone chimed with a message from Floyd. "Diana requesting meeting. Says she has information about additional threats to the twins." Victor considered the request carefully. Diana was manipulative, but she wouldn't fabricate threats to the children, not when doing so would further damage her legal position. If she claimed to have information, it was likely genuine, meant as leverage to improve her situation. "Arrange it," Victor replied. "Maximum security protocols. No recording devices, no attorneys present." 2 days later, Victor sat across from Diana in a secure room at the Federal Detention Center. She looked haggard, the months of incarceration having stripped away her polished facade. "You look well, Victor," she said, her voice dripping with resentment. "Montana agrees with you." Victor didn't react to the revelation that she knew their location. "You claim to have information about threats to the twins." Diana leaned forward. "Brighton's network isn't just about politics and arms dealing. There's a deeper level you haven't touched. People who consider the twins valuable for reasons beyond leverage over you." "Explain," Victor demanded. "Genetic research," Diana said simply. "The twins' DNA is unique. Identical twins with specific genetic markers Brighton's associates have been studying for years. Why do you think I was selected for this operation? My genetic profile, combined with yours, produced exactly what they wanted." Victor maintained his composure despite the shock of this revelation. "You're claiming our children were part of some genetic experiment?" "Not exactly an experiment," Diana clarified. "More like long-term research subjects. Brighton arranged their conception deliberately, using fertility treatments I told you were just to help us conceive. The doctors, the clinic, all part of the operation." The implications were staggering. If true, it meant the conspiracy had begun before his relationship with Diana, that his children's very existence was the result of calculated manipulation. "Why tell me this now?" Victor asked, his voice betraying nothing of his inner turmoil. "Because they won't stop coming for them," Diana replied. "Brighton's associates have invested years and millions in this research. The twins are irreplaceable to their project. Kill me, imprison me, destroy everyone you've identified so far. They'll still come. You expect me to believe you're suddenly concerned for their welfare?" Victor's skepticism was evident. "I'm their mother," Diana said fiercely. "I may have used them, but I never intended them harm. These people don't care if they're damaged in the process of their research. Victor studied her, searching for the lie. Finding none, he asked, "What do you want in exchange for names?" "Protection," Diana answered immediately. "Not freedom. I know that's not possible now. But a secure facility away from Brighton's reach. He'll eliminate me as a liability if he can." "Brighton is finished," Victor pointed out. "His power is gone." Diana laughed bitterly. "You still don't understand. Brighton was never the top of the chain. He answered to people you haven't even identified yet, people who don't appear in any of your evidence boards or federal investigations." Victor considered his options carefully. If Diana was telling the truth, the threat to the twins was far greater than he had realized. If she was lying, he lost nothing by appearing to cooperate while verifying her claims. "Names," he demanded. "Give me something I can verify immediately." "Dr. Alan Farrow," Diana said without hesitation, "Chief of Genetic Research at Meridian Laboratories. Officially, they develop agricultural genetics. Unofficially, they run human genetic research funded by a consortium Brighton represented." Victor committed the name to memory. "If this checks out, I'll arrange the protection you're requesting. If it doesn't, you'll face additional charges for obstruction." Diana nodded. "Check Farrow's travel schedule. He visits specific clinics every 6 months. The twins should have been part of his latest observation cohort." As Victor stood to leave, Diana added, "There's one more thing you should know. The twins aren't identical by natural chance. They were engineered that way, and they carry genetic markers designed for specific traits that wouldn't manifest until puberty." "What traits?" Victor asked, a cold dread settling in his stomach. "Enhanced intelligence, physical capabilities, stress resistance. The perfect operatives for the next generation." Brighton called it Project Legacy. The twins are just 2 of several dozen children born to carefully selected parents. Victor left the detention center with his mind reeling. If Diana was telling the truth, it would transform his understanding of the conspiracy and the danger to his children. It would also mean that Leo and Lily were not merely his legacy, but unwitting subjects in a program with implications he could barely comprehend. Within hours, Floyd had confirmed key elements of Diana's story. Dr. Alan Farrow existed, his travel schedule matched Diana's description, and Meridian Laboratories received funding through shell companies linked to Brighton's associates. "There's more," Floyd reported grimly. The twins' pediatrician for their first 3 years, Dr. Elise Warren, worked for a clinic with ties to Meridian. She submitted regular reports on their development to a research database we've traced to Farrow's department. Victor absorbed this confirmation stoically. "Find Farrow. I want to know everything, his research, his associates, his security. And I want the complete files on the twins from this program." "What about Diana's protection request?" Floyd asked. "Arrange it," Victor decided. "Not for her sake, but because we need what she knows. And because the twins shouldn't lose their mother to an assassination, regardless of her crimes." The revelation about Project Legacy changed everything. What had begun as a personal betrayal and criminal conspiracy now involved his children's very genetic makeup and future. The vengeance Victor had pursued so methodically was no longer sufficient. He needed to eliminate not just Diana's ability to harm his family, but the entire system that had created the threat in the first place. As night fell over the Montana ranch, Victor watched the twins sleeping peacefully, unaware of the forces that had shaped their existence or the battles still to come. His resolve hardened into something beyond revenge, a determination to ensure that those who had used his children as pawns in their genetic game would face a reckoning unlike anything they could imagine. The final phase of his plan was taking shape. Not just justice or vengeance, but a complete dismantling of Project Legacy and everyone connected to it. Diana, Brighton, Holt, they had been merely the visible faces of a deeper conspiracy. Now Victor would reach into the shadows and destroy the true architects of his family's manipulation. Chapter 8, Checkmate. 3 weeks after Diana's revelation about Project Legacy, Victor stood in the secure operations center he'd established beneath his Montana ranch. The walls were covered with new evidence boards mapping the structure of Meridian Laboratories and the consortium behind it. Dr. Alan Farrow's image featured prominently, connected by red lines to government officials, research facilities, and offshore funding sources. Farrow is scheduled to visit the Seattle facility next Tuesday, Floyd reported, pointing to surveillance photos of a nondescript building. Security is tight. Private contractors with military backgrounds, advanced surveillance systems. Getting to him won't be easy. We don't need to get to him physically, Victor replied. We need his research data and communications. The Seattle facility's network security. Sophisticated but not impenetrable. Our cyber team identified potential access points through their climate control systems. Victor nodded. Prepare the intrusion. I want complete access before Farrow arrives. Every file, every communication, especially anything related to the twins or Project Legacy. As Floyd coordinated with the cyber team, Victor reviewed the latest security reports on the twins. Leo and Lily had adjusted well to life on the ranch, but Victor had noticed subtle changes in their behavior. Leo had begun solving complex mathematical problems far beyond his grade level. Lily had developed an uncanny memory for details and patterns. The genetic enhancements Diana had mentioned were becoming increasingly evident. Victor's secure phone chimed with a message from DA Vance. Diana's cooperation confirmed. Multiple arrests based on her information. Transfer to secure facility approved by federal judge. The protection arrangement for Diana had proven valuable. Her detailed knowledge of Project Legacy had already led to the identification and arrest of 3 scientists involved in the program. But Victor knew Diana's cooperation was self-serving. She was positioning herself for eventual leniency, perhaps even a reduced sentence that might someday allow her to re-enter the twins' lives. That evening, Victor visited the twins for their bedtime routine. As he tucked Lily into bed, she asked the question he'd been dreading. Daddy, when can we see Mommy? It's been a really long time. Victor sat on the edge of her bed, choosing his words carefully. Mommy did some things that weren't right, sweetheart. She has to answer for those things before she can see you again. Was it our fault? Leo asked from his bed across the room. Did we do something wrong? No, Victor said firmly. Nothing about this is your fault. Your mother made choices that had nothing to do with you or anything you did. But she loves us, right? Lily persisted, her eyes wide and vulnerable. Victor felt the weight of the question. The easy answer would be to say yes, to preserve some semblance of maternal love in his children's minds. But he had promised himself never to lie to them about Diana's true nature. Your mother cares for you in her way, he said carefully, but she made choices that put you in danger. My job is to protect you, even if that means keeping you apart from people who might harm you. The twins seemed to accept this explanation, though Victor could see the confusion and sadness in their eyes. As he kissed them goodnight, he renewed his determination to dismantle Project Legacy completely, not just for justice or revenge, but to ensure his children could someday understand the full truth of their origins. The following day, Victor's cyber team successfully penetrated Meridian Laboratories' secure servers. The data they extracted confirmed Diana's claims and revealed disturbing details about Project Legacy. The twins were indeed part of a cohort of genetically enhanced children, selected for specific traits and monitored throughout their development. There are 38 children in the program, Floyd reported as they reviewed the files, all born to carefully selected parents, typically one parent aware of the program, one unaware. The genetic modifications include enhanced cognitive processing, accelerated learning capability, and physiological adaptations for stress resistance. Victor studied the clinical reports on his children with growing anger. The purpose? According to internal communications, they're creating the next generation of intelligence operatives and military assets. Children who can be shaped from birth to serve specific functions within a global security apparatus controlled by the consortium. And the consortium itself? Floyd brought up another screen showing a complex organizational chart. A shadow network of former intelligence officials, genetic researchers, and private military contractors, funded by a group of billionaires with interest in defense technology and pharmaceutical development. Senator Brighton represented their political interests in Washington. Victor identified the names at the top of the chart, men and women of enormous wealth and influence, operating beyond conventional scrutiny. They had treated his children as experiments, their lives as data points in a program designed to create controllable human assets. Do they know we've accessed their systems? Victor asked. Not yet. We're using a passive intrusion that mimics routine system processes. But once we extract the complete dataset, they'll eventually detect the breach. Then we move quickly. I want everything: research protocols, funding sources, communications between consortium members. And I want the complete files on all 38 children. Over the next 48 hours, Victor's team extracted terabytes of data from Meridian servers. The information painted a disturbing picture of Project Legacy's scope and ambition. Beyond the genetic modifications, the program included behavioral conditioning protocols designed to activate during adolescence, triggering predetermined psychological responses that would make the children susceptible to specific training regimens. Victor was reviewing these protocols when Floyd burst into the command center, his expression grave. We've been compromised. Meridian's security systems detected our intrusion. They're implementing countermeasures and purging servers. Did we get everything? Victor demanded. Most of it, but they know we have the data now. Their emergency protocols include contingency plans for exposure. Victor immediately activated the ranch's enhanced security systems. Full lockdown. Triple the perimeter guards. No one approaches the twins without direct authorization from me. There's more, Floyd added. Dr. Farrow has disappeared. Missed his scheduled appearance in Seattle. Hasn't been seen in 36 hours. He's either running or being extracted by the consortium, Victor concluded. Either way, we've lost our primary target. Not necessarily, Floyd countered, pulling up surveillance footage. Our team in Washington, D.C. spotted Farrow entering a private club frequented by high-level government officials. He met with this man. The screen showed Farrow shaking hands with a distinguished older man Victor recognized immediately. William Hargrove, Deputy Director of National Intelligence and a longtime associate of Senator Brighton. The government connection, Victor murmured. Project Legacy has official protection. At some level, yes, Floyd confirmed. But the documentation we extracted suggests it's a rogue operation, not sanctioned by full oversight committees. Hargrove and a select group have been providing cover and resources while keeping the program off official records. This changed the calculus significantly. Victor couldn't just dismantle a private conspiracy. He was potentially going up against elements within the intelligence community itself. We need leverage, Victor decided. Something Hargrove and his associates can't afford to have exposed. Floyd hesitated. There is something. Among the files we extracted was a recording of a meeting between Hargrove, Brighton, and 3 consortium members. They explicitly discuss using the enhanced children as deniable assets for operations against American targets. Treason, Victor said flatly. Conspiracy against the United States. Exactly. But exposing it means exposing the entire Project Legacy, including the identities of all 38 children. Victor faced the most difficult decision of his campaign. Exposing Project Legacy would protect his children from the consortium's control, but would simultaneously reveal their genetic modifications to the world. Leo and Lily would forever be marked as products of an illegal program, subjects of public scrutiny and potential discrimination. There has to be another way, Victor said finally. A targeted exposure that protects the children while eliminating the threat. After hours of strategic planning, Victor developed a 2-phase approach. First, they would use the evidence of treason to force Hargrove and his government associates to withdraw support from Project Legacy. Second, they would systematically dismantle the consortium's infrastructure while securing legal protections for all children involved. The execution began with a carefully orchestrated leak to a trusted contact at the Justice Department. Evidence of Hargrove's treasonous activities without specific details about Project Legacy itself. Within hours, federal agents moved to secure Hargrove's offices and residence. Simultaneously, Victor deployed private security teams to monitor each of the consortium's key members. Any attempt to access Project Legacy data or contact the families of involved children would be immediately detected and prevented. 3 days into the operation, Victor received a secure call from his contact in the Justice Department. Hargrove is cooperating fully. He's identified 7 other government officials involved in providing cover for Project Legacy. All are being detained and questioned. And the consortium members? Victor asked. We have warrants for their financial records and communications. The evidence you provided has opened multiple avenues of investigation. But there's a complication. 2 consortium members have disappeared, likely fled the country. And we're receiving diplomatic pressure from several foreign governments to limit the scope of our investigation. Victor had anticipated this. Those governments have their own versions of Project Legacy. They're afraid exposure will compromise their programs. Exactly, which puts us in a difficult position. How far do we push this without creating an international incident? As far as necessary to secure the safety of the children involved, Victor replied firmly. I have contingency plans for international pressure. Those contingencies involve the final piece of leverage Victor had extracted from Meridian's servers. Evidence that the consortium had been selling genetic technology to hostile foreign powers, violating international treaties and U.S. export controls. This evidence, if released, would force even reluctant governments to distance themselves from Project Legacy and its architects. Victor was preparing to implement this phase when Floyd reported a disturbing development. Diana's been moved from the secure facility. The transfer was authorized using proper protocols, but the destination facility doesn't exist. The consortium, Victor realized immediately, they're extracting her as a resource. She knows details about the twins that aren't in the official records. This was a complication Victor hadn't fully anticipated. Despite her crimes, Diana remained the twins' mother and a potential source of emotional manipulation against them. In the consortium's hands, she could become a powerful weapon in their efforts to regain control of the Project Legacy children. Find her, Victor ordered. Use every resource we have and increase security around the twins. No one gets within a mile of this property without complete verification. As Victor's team launched a global search for Diana, he received an unexpected communication, a heavily encrypted message routed through multiple proxy servers. The sender was Dr. Alan Farrow. I need to meet. Information critical to your children's future. Come alone or not at all. It was almost certainly a trap, but it also represented an opportunity to confront one of the primary architects of Project Legacy directly. Victor formulated a plan that would allow him to appear to be meeting Farrow's conditions while maintaining operational security. The meeting was arranged at an abandoned research facility in Idaho, selected by Farrow as neutral territory. Victor arrived by helicopter, apparently alone, but with multiple surveillance drones providing overhead coverage and a tactical team positioned discreetly nearby. Farrow waited inside the facility's main laboratory, a gaunt man in his 60s with piercing eyes and the careful movements of someone accustomed to precision work. Mr. Mercer, he greeted Victor. I appreciate your coming. Where's Diana? Victor asked without preamble. Farrow seemed genuinely surprised by the question. I have no information about your wife's whereabouts. Is she not in federal custody? Either Farrow was an exceptional actor, or he truly wasn't involved in Diana's extraction. Victor decided to proceed cautiously. You wanted to meet? Talk. Farrow nodded, gesturing to a secure laptop on a nearby table. What you've discovered about Project Legacy is only the surface. The genetic modifications implemented in your children and the others weren't simply about enhancing natural capabilities. They included safeguards, biological triggers designed to activate at puberty. What kind of triggers? Victor demanded. Dependency protocols, Farrow explained clinically. The enhanced traits, intelligence, physical capabilities, stress resistance, they come with a biochemical cost. Without regular treatments, beginning at age 12, the children will experience progressive neurological degradation. The implication was clear. The consortium had built in a way to ensure the children would be dependent on them, a biological leash that would force compliance. You're claiming my children will become ill unless they receive treatments only you can provide, Victor said, his voice dangerously calm. Not just ill, Mr. Mercer. The degradation would be fatal within 2 years of onset. It was the consortium's insurance policy against precisely the kind of exposure you've initiated. Why tell me this? Victor asked, studying Pharaoh's face for deception. Because I can provide the treatment protocol, Pharaoh replied. I designed it, and I've come to regret my role in this program. The children deserve lives free from the consortium's control. Victor remained skeptical. Your sudden attack of conscience is convenient. Not sudden, Pharaoh countered. I've been documenting the program's ethical violations for years, building a case against the consortium. Your actions accelerated my timeline. To prove his sincerity, Pharaoh opened the laptop and displayed detailed medical protocols and formulas, the treatments the children would need to remain healthy without remaining under the consortium's control. This information has been deleted from Meridian servers, Pharaoh explained. The consortium intends to use it as leverage to force the families to surrender the children once symptoms begin appearing. Victor examined the medical data carefully. It appeared legitimate, consistent with the genetic information he'd already obtained from Meridian servers. Even if I believe you, Victor said finally, why would you betray your employers? They'll kill you for this. Pharaoh's expression hardened. Because they crossed a line. The original project was about advancement, creating the next evolution of human capability. But the consortium weaponized my research, turned these children into assets rather than pioneers. And they've begun implementing more aggressive protocols in a new generation of subjects, protocols that amount to complete biological control. As Victor considered Pharaoh's claims, his tactical team alerted him to approaching vehicles, multiple SUVs moving rapidly toward the facility. You were followed, Victor accused Pharaoh. Or you were, Pharaoh countered, looking genuinely alarmed. The consortium has resources within every intelligence agency. If they tracked either of us, Victor cut him off, grabbing the laptop and pulling Pharaoh toward a rear exit. Move. Now. They barely reached the exit when the first explosive charge detonated, collapsing part of the facility's roof. Victor shoved Pharaoh ahead of him as they ran toward a concealed position where extraction had been prearranged in case of emergency. Gunfire erupted behind them as armed men in tactical gear poured from the SUVs. Victor's own team engaged from their positions, providing covering fire as Victor and Pharaoh reached the extraction point where a camouflaged helicopter waited. As they lifted off, Pharaoh clutched the laptop to his chest. The formula must be preserved. Without it, all 38 children will die. Victor studied the geneticist, still uncertain of his true motives, but convinced of the threat to the children. Who sent the team? The consortium or someone inside the government? At this point, the distinction hardly matters, Pharaoh replied grimly. Hargrove's cooperation has fractured their alliance, but both sides want the same thing, to contain the exposure and regain control of the Project Legacy subjects. Back at the Montana ranch, Victor established Pharaoh in a secure medical facility where the geneticist could work on refining the treatment protocol while under constant surveillance. The attack at the Idaho facility confirmed that despite the legal pressure, the consortium remained operational and dangerous. Floyd updated Victor on Diana's status. We've tracked her to a private medical facility in Switzerland. Surveillance confirms she's there voluntarily, not as a prisoner. She's meeting regularly with this man. The screen showed Diana in conversation with a distinguished-looking man in his 70s, Conrad Whitmore, chairman of a pharmaceutical conglomerate and one of the consortium's founding members. She switched sides, Victor concluded. Again, appears so. Intercepted communications suggest she's providing detailed information about the twins' development that wasn't included in the official records. This development changed the strategic landscape significantly. Diana wasn't just a threat as the twins' mother. She was actively working with the consortium to help them regain control of Leo and Lily. Victor made a difficult decision. Prepare extraction options for Diana from the Swiss facility. We need to neutralize her as a source of information. An extraction from Switzerland is high risk, Floyd cautioned. International complications, diplomatic issues. I'm aware, Victor cut him off. But Diana has made her choice. She's now an active threat to the twins' safety and autonomy. As Victor's team prepared the extraction plan, DA Vance called with disturbing news. The case against Diana is being reevaluated based on new evidence suggesting coercion. There's political pressure to reduce charges in exchange for her cooperation against larger targets in the consortium. She's manipulating the system again, Victor said, unsurprised, using her knowledge of Project Legacy as leverage. Exactly, and it's working. Several key officials see her as more valuable as a witness than as a defendant. This confirmed what Victor had suspected. Diana was playing both sides, positioning herself to emerge for the collapse of Project Legacy with reduced legal consequences and potential access to the twins in the future. She can't be allowed to rewrite history again, Victor said firmly. I have evidence of her current collaboration with Whitmore. She's not a cooperative witness. She's actively working to undermine the investigation. The next 48 hours were a careful dance of legal maneuvers and covert operations. While Victor's legal team provided evidence of Diana's duplicity to the Justice Department, his operational team finalized plans for her extraction from Switzerland if legal means failed to neutralize her threat. Meanwhile, Dr. Farrow completed his analysis of the treatment protocol, confirming that it could be administered without the children ever knowing the true nature of their genetic modifications. What would appear to be routine vaccinations would prevent the neurological degradation the consortium had built into their genetic code. The treatment can be standardized and provided to all 38 children, Farrow explained. Once the initial course is complete, annual boosters will maintain stabilization permanently. And no side effects? Victor pressed. None that would be noticeable. The enhanced capabilities will remain intact. The children will simply be free of the dependency the consortium engineered. This represented the first real victory in Victor's campaign against Project Legacy. The ability to free the children from the biological control mechanism without compromising their health or revealing their modified status. Victor was reviewing the treatment protocol when Floyd burst into the lab, his expression grave. We have a situation. Diana's gone from the Swiss facility, and she left this. He handed Victor a tablet, displaying a video message from Diana. Her appearance was polished again, her confidence restored as she spoke directly to the camera. Victor, I know you're watching. By now you've discovered the dependency protocol and think you found a solution. What you don't know is that the twins' modification included personalized markers. The standard treatment won't work for them. They need a customized formula based on their specific genetic profile. She paused, her expression almost triumphant. I have that formula, and I'm willing to provide it in exchange for very reasonable terms. Supervised visitation with my children and a reduced sentence served in a minimum security facility. My attorneys will be in touch with specific proposals. As the video ended, Victor turned to Farrow. Is this possible? Personalized markers that would make the standard treatment ineffective. Farrow hesitated. It's possible. Some subjects received customized modifications based on their parents' genetic contributions. I would need to see their complete genetic profile to determine if Leo and Lily have such markers. Run the analysis, Victor ordered. I want to know if Diana is bluffing or if the twins truly need a customized treatment. While Farrow worked, Victor consulted with his legal team about Diana's proposal. The terms she suggested were crafted to seem reasonable to outside observers. A mother seeking limited contact with her children in humane conditions during her incarceration. But Victor recognized the strategy behind the apparent reasonableness. Diana was creating a narrative where refusing her terms would make him appear vindictive and cruel. If she truly has information critical to the twins' health, courts might view her terms favorably, Bernard advised. Medical necessity creates compelling grounds for negotiation. And if she's bluffing? Victor asked. Then we need proof before rejecting her offer outright. Otherwise, she controls the narrative. After 24 hours of intensive analysis, Farrow delivered his verdict. The twins do have personalized genetic markers. The standard treatment would be partially effective but not completely. Without a customized formula, they would experience some degradation, though not as severe as without treatment. Could you develop the customized formula without Diana's information? Victor asked. Possibly, given enough time, but the onset of symptoms would begin before I could perfect it. Diana's information would significantly accelerate the process. Victor faced a true dilemma. Diana had found the perfect leverage, the twins' health. Refusing her terms could endanger Leo and Lily, while accepting them would give Diana exactly what she wanted, a path back into their lives and a narrative of redemption. After careful consideration, Victor developed a third option. We negotiate, but on my terms. I'll agree to provide the treatment information Diana claims to have, but through an intermediary. No direct contact with the twins until they're adults and can make their own informed choice about a relationship with her. The counterproposal was delivered through official channels, positioning Victor as reasonable but firm in protecting the twins from potential psychological manipulation. Diana's response was swift and furious. A public statement through her attorneys claiming Victor was endangering the children's health for the sake of revenge. The resulting media coverage painted Diana as a concerned mother and Victor as potentially negligent. It was precisely the narrative shift Diana had engineered, from criminal conspirator to victimized mother fighting for her children's welfare. Victor recognized the trap, but refused to be manipulated. His team located Diana at a private estate in the French countryside, suggesting she had never intended to negotiate in good faith. The public campaign was merely cover for her continued alliance with the consortium. Extraction is authorized. Victor instructed his operational team. Secure Diana and any information she possesses about the twins' treatment. This ends now. The operation was executed with military precision. Diana was extracted from the French estate while she slept, transported to a secure facility Victor had established for debriefing high-value targets. When she awoke, she found herself in a sterile room with Victor waiting calmly across from her. Kidnapping now, Victor? Diana asked, her voice steady despite her situation. That's a federal offense, even for someone with your connections. This is an illegal proceeding, Victor replied evenly. This is a parent protecting his children from someone who sees them as bargaining chips. I'm their mother, Diana countered. Everything I've done has been to secure their future, including collaborating with the consortium against their interests, working with Whitmore to maintain the dependency protocol. Diana's expression flickered momentarily. You don't understand the bigger picture. The consortium isn't going away, Victor. They'll rebuild, regroup. I was positioning myself as the twins' advocate within their structure. No, Victor said firmly. You were securing your own position, as always. The customized treatment formula. Where is it? Diana smiled thinly. Not here. Not anywhere you'll find it without my cooperation. And if anything happens to me, it disappears forever. Victor had anticipated this response. Dr. Farrow is developing an alternative formula. The twins will receive treatment with or without your information. The only question is whether you want to contribute to their well-being or be remembered as the mother who withheld critical medical information for leverage. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Diana's face. Farrow is working with you? He betrayed the consortium. He chose the children over the program, Victor confirmed. As any parent should. The implication struck home. Diana's confidence wavered visibly. What are you offering? Nothing you don't already have. Imprisonment for your crimes. But with the knowledge that you did one decent thing for your children at the end. Diana considered her options carefully. And if I provide the formula, what guarantee do I have you'll actually use it? You have my word as their father, Victor replied simply. I will always act in their best interest, regardless of my feelings toward you. After a tense silence, Diana made her decision. There's a secure server in Geneva. The formula is there, along with complete documentation of the twins' genetic modifications and projected developmental milestones. She provided the access protocols, her demeanor shifting from defiance to resignation. They'll never know what was done to them, will they? The consortium's manipulations, my betrayal. You'll protect them from all of it. Until they're old enough to understand the full truth, Victor confirmed. Then they'll know everything, including that their mother eventually chose to help them, even if it gained her nothing. Diana looked away. Small comfort. They'll still hate me. That will be their choice to make, Victor said, standing to leave. Just as this was yours. Within hours, Victor's team had accessed the Geneva server and retrieved the formula, along with extensive documentation about the twins' genetic profile. Dr. Farrow confirmed its authenticity and began preparing the treatment immediately. Diana was returned to federal custody, her brief absence unrecorded in official channels. She made no further public statements or demands, perhaps recognizing that her final gambit had failed. The narrative she had tried to create, the concerned mother fighting for her children, collapsed under the weight of evidence Victor provided about her collaboration with Whitmore and the consortium. 1 week later, Leo and Lily received their first treatments, administered as routine vaccinations by Dr. Farrow. Neither child showed any adverse reactions, and subtle monitoring confirmed the treatment was working as intended, stabilizing the potentially dangerous genetic modifications without affecting their enhanced capabilities. Victor watched his children playing after the treatment, their laughter echoing across the Montana ranch as they chased each other through autumn leaves. They remained unaware of the battles fought for their future, the conspiracies unraveled to secure their freedom from manipulation and control. The war wasn't over. Elements of the consortium remained at large, and the political fallout from Project Legacy continued to reverberate through government agencies and international relations. But Victor had won the most important battle, securing his children's future free from biological manipulation and control. As darkness fell over the Montana property, Victor made a decision that would shape the final phase of his campaign against those who had threatened his family. The twins were safe, their treatment secured. Now it was time to ensure that the architects of Project Legacy could never threaten them or any other children again. Prepare the endgame protocol, Victor instructed Floyd. Every remaining consortium member, research facility, financial support structure, I want it all dismantled within 30 days. Some targets are beyond our legal reach, Floyd cautioned, particularly the overseas operations. Then we operate beyond legal parameters, Victor replied coldly. These people treated my children as experiments. They won't receive the courtesy of legal proceedings. The final offensive against Project Legacy's architects began with a carefully orchestrated financial attack. Using evidence from Meridian's servers, Victor's team initiated simultaneous freezes on accounts and assets belonging to consortium members across 12 countries. Conrad Whitmore, attempting to flee to a private island in the Pacific, found his aircraft denied landing clearance at every airfield within range. When he was forced to land at a small regional airport for refueling, a team of federal agents was waiting, acting on anonymous intelligence about weapons smuggling. 3 other consortium leaders suffered similar fates, their escape routes compromised, their safe houses exposed, their protection details neutralized through methods that couldn't be traced back to Victor. Within 2 weeks, the core leadership of Project Legacy was either in custody or in hiding without resources. Dr. Farrow, continuing to cooperate, provided critical intelligence about research facilities worldwide where genetic experimentation continued. Victor's teams didn't directly assault these facilities. Instead, they exposed their activities to local authorities and media simultaneously, creating a global wave of raids and shutdowns that appeared unconnected but served a single coordinated purpose. Diana, now fully aware of the comprehensive dismantling of the consortium, made one final attempt to salvage her position. Through her attorneys, she offered to testify against Whitmore and reveal additional projects beyond Project Legacy in exchange for witness protection and eventual supervised contact with the twins. Victor's response was delivered through official channels. No deals. No concessions. No contact. The message was clear. Diana would receive no mercy, no forgiveness, no path to redemption through her children. Victor had meant what he said at the beginning of his campaign against those who had betrayed him. Some actions were unforgivable, and Diana's betrayal of her own children for personal gain topped that list. Chapter 9. Endgame. 1 year after the Christmas Eve raid that began Victor's campaign of vengeance, he stood at the window of his study in the Montana ranch, watching as Leo and Lily build a snowman in the winter twilight. At 7 years old, they showed remarkable development, both academically and physically, but retained the innocence and joy that Victor had fought so hard to preserve. The ranch had become their permanent home. The Connecticut mansion sold, and its memories purged from their lives. Victor had restructured his business operations to allow him to be present for his children daily, a change that had strengthened their bonds in ways he hadn't anticipated. Floyd entered the study with a secure tablet. Final confirmation from our European team. The Geneva research facility has been shut down by Swiss authorities based on the evidence we provided. That's the last known Project Legacy installation. Victor nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. And the children? The other 36? All receiving treatment through their pediatricians, who believe they're administering a standard immunization protocol. None of the families have been informed of the genetic modifications unless they were already aware. And Diana? Floyd's expression tightened. Her final appeal was denied yesterday. 20 years without possibility of parole. She'll be transferred to a maximum security facility in Colorado next week. Victor absorbed this information without visible emotion. Diana had fought the charges viciously, attempting to leverage her knowledge of Project Legacy for leniency at every turn. But the evidence Victor had meticulously compiled had proven insurmountable. Her conviction on charges of conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, and financial crimes have been upheld through every appeal. She's requested a final meeting before her transfer, Floyd added. Says she has information about a contingency protocol involving the twins that she hasn't revealed yet. Another manipulation, Victor said dismissively. She's desperate now that her legal options are exhausted. Probably, Floyd agreed. But if there's any chance it's legitimate, Victor considered the possibility. Diana had proven remarkably resourceful throughout their conflict, revealing new layers of deception when cornered. The possibility that she had withheld critical information about the twins couldn't be dismissed entirely. Arrange it, Victor decided. But under our protocols, not prison visitation. I want complete control of the environment. 3 days later, Victor sat across from Diana in a secure conference room at his private security facility outside Hartford. She looked markedly different after a year in detention. Thinner, her once perfect appearance now austere, her auburn hair threaded with premature gray. You look well, Victor, she said, echoing their previous meeting. Montana clearly agrees with you. What information do you claim to have? Victor asked, bypassing pleasantries. Diana smiled thinly, still direct. Some things never change. She leaned forward. The twins have an activation protocol I didn't mention previously. A psychological trigger designed to initiate specific behavioral patterns at puberty. More manipulation, Victor said, starting to rise. This meeting is over. It's coded to your voice, Diana continued quickly. Specific phrases spoken in your voice will trigger subconscious programming designed to create absolute loyalty and obedience. The consortium designed it as a control mechanism for their future operatives. Victor paused. If such a protocol exists, Dr. Farrow would have discovered it in their genetic profile. It's not genetic, Diana countered. It's behavioral conditioning implemented during their first 3 years through seemingly normal pediatric visits. The conditioning is dormant until activated by specific auditory triggers. The possibility sent a chill through Victor despite his skepticism. And you're revealing this now out of maternal concern? Diana's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. I'm revealing it because they deserve to be completely free. Whatever else I've done, I don't want them controlled by anyone. Not the consortium, not the government, and not you. If this is another attempt to negotiate. No negotiations, Diana interrupted. No conditions. The deactivation process requires specific neurological stimulation administered by someone with training in the protocol. I've arranged for the necessary information to be delivered to Dr. Farrow, regardless of your decision about this meeting. Victor studied her carefully, searching for the deception, the hidden agenda. Why? After everything, why help them now when there's nothing to gain? Diana's eyes met his directly. Because they're still my children, and because I've lost everything else. This is the only thing left I can do for them that means anything. After another moment of evaluation, Victor nodded once. Pharaoh will verify your information. If it proves legitimate, it will be implemented. And you'll tell them someday that I helped them. The question held a vulnerability Victor had never heard from Diana before. I'll tell them the complete truth when they're old enough to understand it. Every betrayal and every assistance. They'll make their own judgments then. Diana seemed to accept this. Her expression resigned. That's fair. More than fair, given everything. As Victor prepared to leave, Diana asked one final question. Are they happy, Victor? Truly. For the first time in their conversation, Victor's expression softened marginally. They're children. They're resilient, adaptable. They have stability, security, people who genuinely care for them. Yes, they're happy. Diana nodded, blinking rapidly. Good. That's good. It was the last time Victor would see Diana in person. Her transfer to the Colorado facility proceeded as scheduled, placing her in a maximum security environment where her ability to communicate with the outside world would be severely restricted for the next 2 decades. Dr. Pharaoh verified Diana's information about the behavioral conditioning protocol and developed a neurological treatment to neutralize the triggers. The twins underwent the procedure as part of what they believed was a standard medical checkup, remaining unaware of the psychological programming that had been embedded in their developing minds or the fact that they were now free of it. 6 months later, Victor received confirmation that the last member of the consortium's leadership had been located and neutralized. Conrad Whitmore had suffered a fatal accident while attempting to establish a new identity in Argentina. The official report cited mechanical failure of his private yacht, though certain details suggested a more orchestrated conclusion. With this final piece, Victor's campaign of vengeance was complete. Every person who had participated in the betrayal and exploitation of his family had faced consequences, some legal, some more direct. The network that had threatened his children was dismantled beyond recovery, its resources seized, its members imprisoned or eliminated. On a crisp autumn morning 2 years after the Christmas Eve raid, Victor sat with the twins on the porch of the Montana ranch, helping them with a science project. Leo was meticulously recording data while Lily constructed an elaborate model of a solar system. Dad, Leo asked suddenly, what happened to Mom? The real story, not the one Grandma tells us. Victor had prepared for this moment, knowing the twins would eventually demand more complete answers as they matured. Your mother made choices that put both of you in danger, he said carefully. She worked with people who wanted to use you for their own purposes. Was she bad? Lily asked, her expression serious. People aren't simply good or bad, Victor replied, choosing his words with precision. Your mother did bad things, made choices that hurt people, including you. But she also eventually helped protect you when she didn't have to. Do you hate her? Leo pressed. Victor considered the question carefully. The rage that had fueled his campaign against Diana and her conspirators had transformed into something colder and more permanent. Not active hatred, but an unforgiving memory that would never soften with time. I don't forgive what she did, he said finally. But hating her takes energy I'd rather spend on both of you. The twins seemed to accept this answer, returning to their project with the adaptability of childhood. Victor watched them work. These remarkable children who had been created as pawns in a conspiracy, but would grow up to make their own choices, free from the manipulations intended to control them. In his study that evening, Victor reviewed the final reports from Floyd about the Project Legacy aftermath. All 38 children were thriving, their treatments continuing without incident. The political fallout had resulted in new international treaties governing genetic research and enhanced oversight of intelligence operations. Senator Brighton had died in prison 6 months earlier, his legacy destroyed, his name synonymous with treason. As Victor closed the file, he reflected on the campaign that had consumed 2 years of his life. He had been ruthless, methodical, and at times operated outside legal boundaries in his pursuit of those who had threatened his family. He had shown no mercy, accepted no excuses, offered no forgiveness to those who had betrayed him, including the mother of his children. But the twins were safe, their future secure. They would grow up knowing they were loved and protected, even if they never fully understood the lengths to which their father had gone to ensure that protection. That was enough. Not a happy ending, perhaps, but a just one. Victor Mercer had lost his wife to betrayal, his trust to deception, and his belief in ordinary justice to the realities of power and influence. But he had kept what mattered most: his children, his determination, and his absolute commitment to protecting what was his no matter the cost. As snow began to fall outside his window, Victor closed the final file on Project Legacy. The war was over. He had won. And those who had dared to threaten his family had learned the most important lesson of all. Some men can't be manipulated, some betrayals can't be survived, and some vengeance can't be escaped. For Diana, for Brighton, for everyone involved in the conspiracy against his family, that lesson had come too late. For anyone who might threaten the Mercer family in the future, Victor hoped the lesson was clear. Some men don't get mad. They don't make threats. They simply ensure that those who cross them never have the opportunity to do so again. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.